starting. So just a little roundup. So we discussed today distributed renewable energy in emerging markets. To set the scene a little bit, in the last 10 years, just looking at solar PV, the cost of electricity generated by a solar PV facility has been reduced by about 60%, depending on the estimate. Now, what's that meant in many of these emerging markets is that grid parity has been reached or otherwise surpassed. We talked today a lot about Jordan, which is a bit of an exceptional example, but very relevant, where the cost of electricity charged to commercial and industrial users of electricity is extremely high. So, for example, a bank pays 40 US cents per kilowatt hours in Jordan. A telecoms company pays 38. So we're now seeing more and more developers, moving away for these big government-procured tenders where 3 cents are being bid to smaller distributed solar projects with the likes of Lafarge Holcim, Orange, PepsiCo, Unilever, these kind of guys, and selling electricity to them direct. Now, there's obviously a huge business case for these projects, but these are often first-of-a-kind projects dealing with parties that are not experienced in, PPA negotiations and project financing. It gives way to a whole load of challenges, makes it very difficult to negotiate these deals. So there's a big tension between the business case, the commercial appeal, but on the other hand, time to close these deals. So we talked about some of the challenges that we face in those negotiations with off-takers. I don't obviously have the time to go through them right now, but we also talked about the different segments, for example, leasing of small-scale facilities in Africa, using mobile money and enabling rural communities to have access to electricity and to pay via their mobile phone, bearing in mind that these are communities where people often don't have access to electricity or bank accounts, and so multiple leapfrogs, as people like to say. That's a little bit of a summary, so I know I don't have more time. Bye.
Good afternoon. My name is Aslan Khalid. We were in the Roundtable, which is building employability in a surging renewable energy market. We were trying to give the other side of the business case for renewable energy. We've all talked about costs and how renewable energy costs are declining. The topic of this discussion was how renewable energy can create jobs and how renewable energy can help in achieving some of the other socioeconomic objectives that countries have in addition to jobs in terms of job creation, in terms of industrial development. We discussed the trends that we are seeing across the world, how renewable energy jobs are increasing. We took a look at where we need to be in 15 years from now if we are to achieve our targets for renewable energy deployment, how we need to scale up not only our policy mechanisms, but also the workforce that is required for the sector as it grows. Something that was highlighted in this roundtable discussion was that if we are to get there, we need to get our act right on skill development, because in many countries we are seeing that lack of skills is hindering growth in renewable energy technologies. There are delays faced by developers because of not having enough workforce. And if countries want to create local jobs, if countries want to localize the value chain, then skill development is a very important aspect in addition to how they design the rest of policy mechanisms. Some of the mechanisms which were highlighted in order to increase the availability of skilled workforce include vocational training, putting standard courses in place, certifications. We discussed how the employability can vary between large projects and small projects, which projects have a greater potential to create jobs. And finally, we highlighted that overall you need a policy mechanism, a policy framework that creates deployment policies that ensure stable demand for renewable energy, but at the same time strengthen the industrial capabilities, develop skills, and provide an overall investment framework which allows investment to flow in not only in deployment but also in other industries. So that was a very quick wrap up. Thank you.
Excellent. And we've got the third table Good afternoon. Firstly, I should perhaps say what CSP stands for, which is Concentrated Solar Power. It was not news for me in joining this group. We had an extremely lively debate in part on the technicalities of CSP and technical selection, and the fact that eventually we felt that maybe two types of technology will emerge, one known as a trough system and the other one known as a tower system. So our three kind of wind-up messages or conclusions were that firstly, we felt that if governments had a very high rate of renewable energy penetration, so the target, for example, set by the UAE government of 44% by 2050, we know, understanding the technical characteristics of photovoltaics, that will require a large injection of concentrated solar power. That would not be true in the north of Europe. It would be wind and PV. But in this part of the world, we foresee PV, both utility and rooftop, and CSP as the two brothers in arms, if you like, going forward and fighting the battle for renewable energy. Secondly, we felt that and because of that, we felt that CSP is an extremely important part of the energy mix, and it will provide baseload going forward for as long as it's needed. And thirdly, and I think this is an extremely valid point, thirdly, that a number of us felt that the technology has not yet developed in the way that it's an accepted technology for this region, particularly this region. And we felt that perhaps governments would need to take some risk on innovation risk, particularly with new forms of CSP going forward. That's it.
Thank you. My name is Sylvain Broglet. So our subject was the potential of alternative renewable in Middle East and North Africa, solar, wind compared to geothermal, biofuel and waste. So you understand that we are comparing intermittent power to permanent power. Already a difficulties, but okay, let's say we do the exercise. The key points, we would start with the waste, is that today the human being is producing 1.3 billion tons of waste per year around the planet. In 2025, we are producing 2.5 billion tons of waste. This is a natural source of energy that could be utilized. Of course, we have done a little SWOT. The biggest problem in terms of the waste changed into power is the costs. The collection, the plant itself, and the distribution. So cost is a really negative point on it. We also identified that it has to be supported by the government. It has to be maybe supported by the people in applying a tax on waste, which is already the case for us in Europe. In France, we are paying tax of the kilo we are putting in our waste. So these are solutions that can be easily put online. And we have to say on the waste, it's not a difficult technology, but it's not a nuclear power station. So really, the big frame on this is the cost. Then we moved into geothermal. Geothermal, Middle East and North Africa is a little bit difficult to convey the message from geothermal resources into electricity. Why? The resources are not there. The only country which has been identified in having resources potential to convert into electricity is the south of Saudi Arabia, where there is a big potential. But all the rest, there is no direct use in electricity. But the biggest things which can be done is the cooling system. So we could save, as you know, electricity, Middle East, 60-70% or 75% even more is utilized for cooling systems. And utilizing geothermal with low temperature on the ground and doing a cooling system on it would be a very good application. Just one information, France is supplying on heating in Paris 1 million people with heating system with this technology. So we can easily convert it into cooling. That's a very good point. Thank you.
Table, we were looking at the role of social enterprise and not-for-profit in helping reach people through the last mile, as it were. And we covered a lot of ground. We looked at how the sector is changing. We looked at the whole question of capacity in different countries, some of the challenges related to scaling, some of the challenges related to quality, materials, hardware, so that it lasts longer than it sometimes seems to do. And then, of course, we got into the whole vexed area of financing. As you can imagine, where does the money come from? If it doesn't come through the governments, is it going to come through impact investors? Is it going to come through philanthropists? Is it going to come through establishing viable revenue streams, sometimes through very creative diversification ideas? So as you can imagine, it was a lively discussion. We were incredibly fortunate because we had 4 former winners of the Zayed Future Prize in this sector, in the not-for-profit and social enterprise sector, and we had 2 finalists from this year as well, so we had a huge wealth of experience, and quite rightly they put those of us on the Zayed Future Energy Prize Selection Committee under a bit of pressure to get even better at what the prize does in future years, particularly in its 10th year. So thank you for that, colleagues. And thanks to all of you for coming to this session. I hope it's been valuable, and thanks very much for making it possible to finish no more than 10 minutes late, which I can see they're all very pleased about at the exit. So thank you.
If you can please take your seats, we're going to start these roundtables. I think you've started them already, so maybe it's a good thing, but if we can all get your attention, so that's great. We have some very, very interesting discussions going on here this evening. And let me just bring you through them. We're going to focus on CSP, its benefits as part of the baseload energy mix. Nick Carter is the chairman of that. Nick, this is Nick here. So if anybody interested to join this panel, focus on CSP benefits as the baseload energy mix. Nick is the director, Middle East for Baringa. So Nick will be there and he'll take care of that session for you. Distributed renewable energy in emerging markets. We have Mark Norman. Mark is where? Oh, there you are, Mark. Okay. Mark down there at this table, an associate from Chadbourne. So that, if anybody wants to join that table. Here at the front, we have Sylvain Broglet, the director for Geodeep. Sylvain was here, and he still is here. Good to see you. Sylvain, looking at the potential for alternative renewables in MENA, creating energy through biofuels, geothermal, and waste. Building employability in a surging renewable energy market. Rabia Farouki. Rabia, I see you. Okay, great. And Rabia is with Irina. He's the head of policy unit, the deputy director for knowledge policy and finance there. And then our session up here at the front, the role of social enterprises and NPOs in delivering a sustainable future for all. And Jonathan Porritt, the founding director of Forum for the Future, is going to chair that. Now, Jonathan has been given an additional role, which he's very kindly taken on, because I did a little bit of arm twisting, gentle arm twisting. And what we would like you to do when you've had your discussion is that the chairperson from each table will actually deliver just a few minutes, just maybe a 3-minute wrap-up, maybe even shorter, 2 minutes. But again, and if you absolutely positively don't want to do it, then don't worry, we're not going to force you. But if there's anyone from your table who would be happy if the chairperson doesn't want to do it, but if you have a soul there who can just wrap it up in just a few minutes, and then Jonathan will chair that for us. So you can do it from your table with a microphone if you want, or not. Why not come up here and just take a few minutes and share it with everybody, because I think they're all fascinating topics and everybody would like to hear all of the takeaways that you've all had. So I will leave you at it. Good luck. I think it'll be a very fascinating conversation, and I'm sorry I can't join you, but you're in good hands. And Jonathan, thank you so much for taking on our chairperson role for this. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Because now we are developing the more sustainable energy solution in the world, which is going to be ready in 2020.
You work with Accra?
Accra?
Yeah, the Italian NGO?
We work with, we have been running for 30 years. So
My name is Yukai Yamaji. As Jonathan mentioned, I'm a member of the selection committee. I'm from the Institute of conventional and non-conventional renewable energy.
And these are So I'm elected by the selection committee this year, so we're one of the refinance, we have both refinance certainty, which is really nice. Push decision makers.
At the end of the day, if we are talking about back in November 15 about the COP21 in Paris, everybody is working on climate change, everybody is worried. Wind, geothermal, but what about waste? The waste is a problem for all of us. It's like electrical car, it took time, but once we get rid of it, and we will solve the problem. So this is an introduction. We can share this. What are the positive and the negative aspects of a waste development, and what would be the strong point to have as an alternative on the external side?
Starting to become huge. And the amount of waste that is there that needs processing, because unless and until that is as per the target set. For example, in UAE, the target is that in future, that by 2021, it can be energy, CO2 gasification. So all these things are the challenges that they are all starting to
some systems and more control systems and so on, and that there's enough scaling in that knowledge to take it through. If you think on the other side of the table where that is at the moment, it's a good point. The question is over the long term, and it's the same on anything that is, and battery technology is coming versus large-scale industrial plants. And, there is a history that if you,
So, would you see PV as providing any kind of primary response in the event of an outage? Would you see PV as doing that, or would you see CSP?
I think there's a great potential because of the, once we get the most from Australia, you're going to go for PV type solutions.
But ultimately, the storage is like the primary fuel of the CSP. Correct. Really. I mean, it does not affect the characteristics, the dynamics of a transmission system in the way that PV clearly does. So a system disturbance, losing 1,400 megawatts, even if it's with a number of turbines spinning, generating but below their nameplate capacity. So CSP would not threaten that arrangement. CSP. Steam turbine.
There's a lot of so one of the things that we have to deal with is the different sources of information. There are different sources of information of renewable energy requirement in the United States. Now, the technology which has been most dynamic is solar PV in the United States, and the information from that comes from solar sensors.
Recondition, this is happening a lot in Pakistan. We started throwing away the old batteries and just reconditioned and they started 6 feet by 6 feet, selling cigarettes or something. And the solar panels are 1 foot by 1 foot. And they are like a and they never buy new batteries. Talk to one of them. Electronic waste to Gambia or something. This is what's happening.
That's something which could happen. I think at IRENA what we try to do is go into enhanced charging mode, or whenever there's less supply, then they can use the charging mode and provide a more flexible
That creates a big problem. These multinationals could, but do they want to? Weighing 15% a year, and they're paying for local currency for the phone, which is why we was positive in Dubai, especially 2 years ago at the WFES. It was illegal to use PBXs, but it wasn't even allowed to do that in Dubai. So March 2015, they introduced the Shams Dubai net metering, so you could actually connect. So from March 2016, everyone was figuring out what these regulations mean. 2016 was a through the challenge. We're talking about the challenges, but I think what we're seeing is actually a normal market progression. All it takes in this market to meet Jordan's cost, so megawatt a year market that we're all looking for. I think we all think is possible, and some interesting things that need to be overcome, but ultimately it may just be time and volume.
Creating evidence of things working on and reducing risks. This is probably well connected to the productive uses of the energy. So it's by incentivizing but also catalyzing different ways of how do we enable productive uses of the energy we are installing so people have access of money in the whole value chain so they can actually pay back easily. Just to give you a 5-minute warning, okay, to wrap up your discussions in 5 minutes, and then I'm going to ask the chairs and facilitators of each of the 5 groups to stand up and deliver a brilliant 2-minute succinct summary for everybody else. And you will only have 2 minutes, and I'll cut you off after 2 minutes, because otherwise I'm going to breach my audience. 5 minutes to wrap it all up. Thank you.